Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Well, I'm back because I guess Ted went MIA. But yes, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, or share, or follow at clovercrestmedia.com, plus Keys to the City, and many more podcasts. There he is. Thank God. I was like, wait, where'd he go? You're leaving me out to die. Just like that. Just like that. He's always on the phone. He's wheeling and dealing, styling and profiling. What is he, Ric Flair over there? Woo, woo, woo. I'm not going to go with the woo. No, I'm just kidding. But yes,
sorry.
Why am I such in a good mood? Well, you got some great NBA playoffs. And don't worry, everyone. When the old age of LeBron James and all these older players go, the NBA will be fine. They'll have young talent. Look at the talent that's producing in this playoffs. The ratings are proving. The players are doing their thing. Jordan Poole, Tyrese Maxey, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, John Morant, Luka Doncic. The list goes on right now in the NBA. Peanut Gallery, you better calm down. But the changing of the guard in the NBA is officially upon us. The New York Yankees are struggling once again and cannot hit or outscore the Baltimore Orioles. But we are here today to talk about part 3 of our NFL draft preview, as we are coming down to only 9 days away from the 2022 NFL draft. We are going through today now picks 18 to 25, where there's a lot that can happen. We just said changing of the guard, a new era. Now you look at these teams. These are teams that are on the cusp of making a Super Bowl, getting to the playoffs, or as like the Buffalo Bills at 25, probably just need to add to an already stout team with that overall great presence in the AFC. But we just talked about the new era. Well, there's a new era going on right now, and this is our latest mock draft. We will have mock draft 3.0 coming up next week, draft night. We'll have our final predictions of the mock draft for Keys to the City. And I just said a new era. Well, there's 2 teams in this group of teams, historical franchises in this league. Looks like they might be going into a new era as well with the Green Bay Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Green Bay Packers, we already know what they did. Yes, it's great to have multiple draft picks. But sometimes when you get those multiple draft picks, you have to give up some stars. And the Davante Adams and the Green Bay Packers, well, that's what happened in one of the more surprising moves of this entire offseason. We're all expecting Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams to make a comeback and make one last ride, I guess, with the Green Bay Packers. But Davante Adams kind of stunned people with going back home, wanted to be an LA Raider, and wanting to play with his former teammate. But Ted, the new era. We'll start off with this team. Well, the Packers, we all assume that they could use offensive line help, maybe add some more secondary. But realistically, the biggest need for this team and for Aaron Rodgers is a receiver. So when you look at this class, there is a lot of great weapons at the receiver position. But will the Packers get a chance at the top 4 receivers? And when I say the top 4 receivers, we all agree it's Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, and Drake London. So Ted, let me ask you, will the Packers get a chance at the top 4 receivers in the draft class?
Listen, the only way they're getting one of those top 4 receivers is if they trade up in the draft. I see all 4 of those guys going before 20, and they don't have a pick in the top 20. So what's that say to me is the Packers need to trade up and go get one of the top 4. If not, you're falling for a guy like Treylon Burks from Arkansas, Dotson from Penn State, or the kid or Watson from North Dakota State. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. This dog has literally been quiet for the last hour sleeping, and now all of a sudden he wants to play.
Maybe he needs to go out. Maybe he needs to go out. Take him out.
The question it's fine. I don't need to go. He doesn't need to go out. I'm freezing. I don't want to go outside. It's cold. Will the Packers get a chance? They're going to have to make a move. If they think one of those 4 guys are elite, then they're going to have to go trade, because you and me had talked about Falcons possibly taking one of the receivers. You're talking the Jets at 10. You're talking Philly. You're talking the Saints. So there's four teams right now with possible. The Chargers are another possibility of taking a receiver. So what's that say to me? Okay, there's 5 or 6 teams that could take a receiver. We know receivers are hot and heavy. Peter Schrager had just came out with his thing. He's got, 5 receivers between 10 and 17. So what's that mean to me? Well, the Packers are going to get the second class tier of the receivers. Now, that doesn't mean anything because we've seen in the NFL, you want to talk about guys coming out of the woodwork from being stars. The receiver classes, second, third, fourth round, do just as well as the first rounds. Yes, there's studs in the first round, but don't tell me guys in second, third round can't be stud. Hey, listen, you match them up with the right quarterback, anyone can be great. And we've seen that before, and it's something that will continue in the NFL. So your question is, will they have a chance? Listen, there's always a chance, Trev, but with the 2 picks in the first round, if they feel that one guy, is it a Chris Olave, who's a really good route runner, separational speed, who ran a 4.39 in the draft class? Is it Jameson Williams, saying, okay, we can handle the first month or 2 without you, but we're going to get you down the stretch. We know if he was healthy, he'd probably be the top receiver off the board and be taking the top 10. So, who is it and where do they fall? But either way, I think the Packers are still in a good predicament because you still have 2 first-round picks. The receivers that I'm talking about, when Treylon Burks and Kid Dotson from Penn State, are very capable receivers. All right, they're first-round talented guys. They're not that far off from the top 4. And if not the Packers, we've seen this before. Valdez-Scantling, other guys that they have drafted. Aaron Rodgers. They might not be Devontae Adams, but they can suffice for what they need.
Well, that's the thing with this draft right now. This is a predominantly we've seen where this is a meat potatoes draft class with the receiver or the offensive line, D line. You see, that's going to be going fast in this draft. Well, I believe the receivers as well in this class are going to be the same way. You just think about it overall in the sense of what the receiver position has meant to the NFL now, how it's become. Well, let's be honest. Offensively, other than a quarterback and a left tackle, it's become the most valuable position in all of the NFL. And with the movement of Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and even guys like Christian Kirk and Stephon Diggs getting big contracts, and now with these new 4 of Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and A.J. Brown, the receivers have become, well, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, sorry running backs, but the receivers are the more popular or are the more valuable position. And you're going to see this class in a situation where the Packers have, and similar to what the Chiefs have too, where they're going to have 2 draft picks alongside. You think about it, there's 5 teams in this draft class that have multiple picks: the New York Jets, the New York Giants, the Philadelphia Eagles, the New Orleans Saints, the Packers, and the Chiefs. So there's 6 teams. That's 12 of these 32 teams. 20 teams have a single pick. 12 of this draft is going to be between 6 teams. But this class.
You want to talk about value for the receivers? I just want to tell you this. I don't know if you were aware of this. I heard this morning. If you take the average salary for the wide receivers, they're the second highest paid player in football, only behind the quarterback. So you take the average salary of the top 5 or 6, even the top 10. I think it was overall, but if you take the top 5 guys in the NFL, a receiver, and take the 5 best offensive linemen, the average salary for the receivers is more so. So the only people that get paid more in the NFL right now are the quarterbacks. Then it's the receivers. Then it's the offensive linemen, mostly the tackles, which we have seen. So you want to talk about a spike. It started, 3-4, right about 4 years ago when Julio got the $20 million contract. He was the thing. And then Amari Cooper wanted the $20 million. Then we saw DeAndre get the $20 million. Then Devontae Adams get we see Chris Godwin $20 million. Mike Williams from Chargers $20 million. You saw Devontae, he got $28 million. We're like, all right, 5 years. Big money. But see, and we've seen this, and there's something what the Browns did with Watson. Miami overpaying, but whatever they did what they want to do. They paid Tyreek Hill $30 million a year. So now, you got those 4 other guys that are like, well, I want to get paid. The market value for the big time receivers is $20 million now minimum, for an elite guy.
So in the sense of this,
I
are
tell
you-
you, if you're a team like we're talking about, if you're a Giants, if you're the Jets, if you're the Chiefs, the Packers, the Saints, and it's funny, all 6 of those teams you announced could all use a stud receiver. The Giants could use.
Well, let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this, because of those. Let's be realistic. I don't believe the Giants are going, because the Giants have the most expensive wide receiver class in all of the NFL, and
Not
they
class.
They produced a group of guys that, we know what their stats were last year. Also, we didn't take into consideration, he had the top 4 receivers in the class, but would you rather be going for one of these 4 guys in this draft class, these top 4, or knowing the contract situations nowadays too, or are you going for the 4 guys that could be realistically, which we didn't think at one point, but could be available, and Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, and AJ Brown?
I'm taking the young guys, bro. It's an easy option for me. It's not even a.
Is it? Hold on. So is the main reason? Hold on. Let me ask you. Is the main reason because the money factor and
2
the years?
reasons. Well, first of all, that's the main factor. All right. So I get a young star. Now, here's the other reason. There's no other group, maybe other than running backs, where a player comes in and automatically makes an immediate impact. We've seen it. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I mean, I'm not going to try to name off a bunch of receivers to back up my point, to prove my point. But we've seen young Devontae. I mean, just name all the receivers that have come in the draft class the last 4 or 5 years. Kadarius Toney, when he was healthy and when he could play for the Giants. I mean,
Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson.
Kadarius. I mean, just those 2 guys. I mean, just keep.
He thought of Kadarius Toney. All the receivers that came out the past
No,
years.
did you not listen? The first two guys I named was Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Were you not listening? That was the first.
You said Kadarius Toney.
Well, I also said a guy like Kadarius Toney. DK Metcalf came in the league, and Elijah Moore last year for the Jets had a really good second half of the season once he was healthy. We saw Beckham come in, rookie. Once he got off the hamstring, immediate impact, bro. CeeDee Lamb. I mean, you just keep naming these young receivers, immediate impact players. You're going to get them young.
Would the Packers be willing to trade
them? You're going to get them young. You're going to get them cheap, and you're going to get them for a 4 or 5 year deal. I don't think any of those guys, here's what I'd say. You want one of those 4 guys, those guys that we're talking about, the Terry McLaurin's agent, you do it after the draft. You see how the draft falls. You see where your picks go. And if you're not satisfied with what you were able to achieve during the draft, then you need a guy like an AJ Brown, then go get him. You want a Terry McLaurin, go get him. If you don't, be happy with what you got. Look at the Bengals. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, all young receivers. All right? But they drafted all those guys. That's what I'm saying. You draft these guys. You draft young talent receivers. Garrett Wilson will be an immediate impact.
But in Green Bay situation,
will be an immediate impact.
Green Bay situation. Then we'll get to another team in this group. In Green Bay situation, they have a guy at quarterback that doesn't want to wait for rookies to, become eventual. They don't
have the money or the draft cap. What are you going to give? You're going to give up 2 first-round picks for?
I don't know what they'll give up for.
So what receiver are you going to get if you're the?
I'm not disagreeing or agree. I'm saying to the point of you have to also put in the picture that they have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers that is getting older, just signed a big contract, is in that window, that very small window now of trying to win a Super Bowl. He's going to be looking, does he really want to deal with a young core of receivers, or does he want a proven guy?
I don't think the Green Bay Packers care, bro. I don't think the Packers care. This is my franchise. It's like my house. I don't give a hell what the hell you think. This is my house. I'll do what I want best for the franchise in the future. I'm not going to fork up the future just because you think one. Listen, they didn't care about Devontae Adams, bro. If it mattered,
they did. They did. They gave him a contract. It was Devontae Adams that said, "No, I'm good. I want to go play in LA." So they did care about making Aaron Rodgers happy. That's my point. Is that
they lost because of the Aaron Rodgers contract. They need defensive help in the pass rush. They need receiver help. So go take a young receiver. Go take a young receiver in one of the picks. Go take a defensive guy in the second.
Is it more likely to take
you can get young? You can go get. And here's the thing: if you don't like the moves. And AJ Brown in the middle, you know what you do? Trade one of the guys.
Is it more likely they go receiver here and then at 20 later in the draft they go with a receiver or defensive play 28?
I think the Packers take a receiver with their first of the 2 picks.
Okay.
No, the Chiefs.
Well, then I
The
guess
Chiefs are in a different situation because their picks fall at 29 and 30. I don't think they go receiver.
Well, let's think about this class as right now. This point, these teams in front of the Green Bay Packers, the Saints need a receiver. The Eagles need a receiver. The Steelers, we'll talk about them in a sec. The Patriots need a receiver. Packers, you already know. The Cardinals could be an interesting team. We don't know what's going on with the Arizona Cardinals right now. The Cowboys, looks like they can maybe use a receiver, also use some defense. And then the Bills, well, they're just at the point that let's just add to this already stacked team that could be contending for us and should most likely be contending for a Super Bowl. This class, this group right here, we talked about the receivers last week of where that could be between 8 and 17 or 9 and 17. I also see like this group right here is where you can see, well, right here, Ted, you got 3 teams that have multiple draft picks. This is where I could see one of these 3 teams maybe trading up into getting one of those receivers or getting one of those playmakers on defense, which these teams need. Or there's a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. We just said new era. Well, they definitely need a new era because, well, let's be honest, they have moved on. Big Ben has officially retired, and they signed Mitchell Trubisky. So my question to you, Ted, for a team that's very intriguing in this whole NFL draft this season, because they're a team that's – we look at the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. They're also in a situation to figure out if they're going to pay one of their star players, Deontay Johnson, big contract money. We haven't talked about him, but that's another guy for future. So for future, you look at this team, they're right there. They got the pieces defensively. They have, I say, the offensive weapons too. They have a stack. They have a great running back. But do you decide to stay put at 20, take the best available player, whether that's the quarterback or whether that's an offensive lineman, which a team like this, the Pittsburgh Steelers, could desperately use because they were one of the worst, ranked 27th in PFF last year. So they're one of the worst offensive lines. Or do they trade up to one of those teams in the top 10 maybe and try to go get a Kenny Pickett or a Malik Willis and finding Big Ben's replacement?
Well, I'll let you go. What do you think, honestly? Because here's the thing. I'm looking at it while you're talking, right? So I'm looking at the mock drafts. I got the Kuipers, McShays. And I think you have to go back to when we did our show 2 weeks ago when we started doing this draft coverage is, all right, where do the quarterbacks fall? You said, Ted, does a quarterback go in the top 5? Does he go in the top 10? Where does he go? First option is Carolina at 6, right? That's where we think a quarterback could go. Probably will, but listen, nothing's definite. We've seen crazier things, right? We know the Giants are not taking a quarterback. Then there's 8 and 9. Then there's the Seattle and Atlanta factor. Do they take one of these quarterbacks or say, hey, listen, we're going to take best available player? Right now it's Evan Neal, it's a Derek Stingley, whoever it may be. We need to get as many good players. Because it's funny because then once you get to 11 to like 18, 19, you start going through the teams. None of those teams really need quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Washington just
maybe
made a
this.
Well, here's the thing. Washington made a move for Carson Wentz. Okay, so they got Carson Wentz. Minnesota they just re-signed and extended Kirk Cousins. All right, Houston's running with David Mills, so we know they're off the quarterback bandwagon. They'll wait till next year. Baltimore's got Lamar. They're not going. Philly, if they wanted to go get a quarterback, they could have gone out of this. They're not. The Saints are not. Hold on, the Chargers are not. The Saints, I don't think are either. I think the Saints are saying we got Jameson Williams, we got Taysom Hill.
Who?
We're gonna ride with these guys if we have to.
Jameson Williams. He's going to the Saints.
Yeah, well, maybe. But Jameis Williams, and then so that's why
Jameis Winston.
What?
Get it right.
I said Jameis Williams.
Get it right. Get it right. You're killing me, man. You don't even know how to say a word, a name.
You know what's funny? I listened to Adam Schefter last night speak the wrong name too. Talking about J.C. Johnson. He goes, yeah, the Patriots lost J.C. Johnson. Go look at his thing. J.C. Johnson. And then somebody must have said it's J.C. Jackson that they lost in free agency. So don't worry. It's not the end of the world. But what being said is we thought about this last year, right? Do the Patriots need to trade up to go get their quarterback of the future? And the way the draft felt, their quarterback fell right into them. So to answer this question 10 days with not knowing who's going to go beforehand, I say they might not have to. One of the 2 quarterbacks might fall perfectly for them because I look at the teams in front of them. None of those teams are really quarterback hungry. Like, who is a quarterback hungry that's going to jump in front of you?
Just said it.
Hold on. Well, here's the thing. It's always a team of who's going to jump in front of you. New England's 21. They're not going to get a quarterback. Green Bay, we know that. Arizona, they're not going to get a quarterback. Dallas is not going to get a quarterback. Buffalo's 25 is not going to get a Tennessee, no. Tampa, Green Bay. So none of the teams behind them, behind the Steelers, really need to go up and jump in front of them to go get a quarterback. So I'm not worried about a team jumping them. And then I don't really look at any of the teams. I don't think the Saints make a move for a quarterback. I think they look at, hey, listen, we got a winning formula in here. We still got a lot of, key pieces. If we get another good receiver and we get another good value in defense, now we put, if it is Jameson Williams and we get Michael Thomas with Jameis Winston and we get Alvin Kamara, if he does not get suspended or go to jail or whatever happens to him, we got a really formidable offense. We know our defense matches up well against Tom Brady. We might be able to beat them or at least get a wild card and make the playoffs and have a run. We have trust in our team. So I don't look at the Saints maybe. The Eagles are not. The Chargers are definitely not taking a quarterback. So the Steelers might sit there at 20 going, he's just falling. He's falling. He's falling. And it's like, all right. Now, if there's a guy, and here's the thing, we won't know how it'll fall because if Carolina says they want Pickett, right, and the Steelers really want Pickett, and he goes 6, well, I mean, I guess they could settle for Malik Willis, which isn't a bad value. And here's the other thing. You still got Trubisky. So you could sit one of these quarterbacks and ride it out with Trubisky for a year and then let the kids start. But I think they definitely take a quarterback. They need to take a quarterback.
All right, here's my whole take on this.
I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, does it
Yes.
comprehend, or am I just speaking verbalage and you're just laughing at me because I'm all over the place? Have a drink, why don't you?
Oh, I love it.
I'm looking at my phone with the show. It's frozen, but that's okay. Everything else is frozen in my life. Got my hand. Look at this.
You're not having a good start. Not a good start to the week for you.
I'm looking for the cap on the water. It's right here.
You're all over the place. My whole take on this situation is, last year was different because you had those 5 quarterbacks, and you knew that 4 of them, maybe 5 of them, could have gone in the top 10. This class, it's kind of like 2013 where you had EJ Manuel, you had Gina, or you had those guys that you weren't sold on them. You weren't really sold on them. I feel like out of all the quarterbacks in this class, the one to me has to be Malik Willis. I mean, he's the ultimate deciding factor and could be the ultimate game changer for a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. My thing is also, you got the Panthers that look like they could go offensive line or quarterback.
I think they definitely
hold on. Falcons look like they could go quarterback, but for a team that has no receivers right now, especially without Calvin Ridley, and their only guy being Kyle Pitts, looks like that could be receiver. Seattle somewhat believes and has been told that they believe in Drew Lock. Okay, so it seems like they could go best player available, maybe Derek Stingley, maybe one of the offensive linemen if they're there as well. Then the Saints become in play, but realistically, I don't feel like, especially if Malik Willis goes, I don't feel like the Steelers should run to the podium or trade up to one of these teams, because I don't feel, to me, that Kenny Pickett, and I believe that Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis will be the 2 quarterbacks in this draft that go in the first round. Corral, Ritter, Carson Strong, those guys will be second round, third round, maybe third day guys.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of those slips in the first round, though. Wait, you know how that goes.
Yes.
Because the thing is, if you draft a quarterback in the first round, especially the quarterback, you get that 5th-year option, which is very valuable because we see that. Go on.
Yeah, my also thing is, I don't see Kenny Pickett for any of these teams that want to consider him drafting him as a quarterback. Whatever your option is right now, do you really feel like Kenny Pickett is a substantial upgrade? I don't see it in Carolina. I don't see it with the Saints. I don't see it with Atlanta. I don't see it with Seattle. And I certainly don't see it also with Steelers. So to me, if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know this has been the question that's been circulating with them, will they find Big Ben's replacement? There's a possibility this could be the draft that they do. I don't think they need to. I think they should worry about this offensive line and give Mitchell Trubisky the 1 year, give him the chance to see how he plays out. You have weapons. I know you lost Juju. You still have weapons on that offense. You have Najee Harris, who looks like he could be one of the young stud running backs in this league, but you got to keep him healthy. And their offensive line was a huge weakness last year. So a guy like Trevor Penning, if there, Bernard Renman, if available, Kenyon Green, just offensive line in general help, if available, if there, and you have that grade on them, then you take an offensive lineman. Because do you have to look at all these teams? I know we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers specifically, but all the teams that have been associated with one of these quarterbacks, even Malik Willis, do you feel, you have to answer this question to yourself, do you feel that these guys are upgrades with the current product that we have going on the field?
You know what I was shocked? One of the questions they had on TV today was, is Kenny Pickett better than, and they were like, or is Baker Mayfield better than Malik Willis? Is Baker Mayfield better than Kenny Pickett? Is Baker Mayfield better than this guy?
My only quarterback I would take out of this is
Malik Willis. I couldn't believe that they both took the two rookies, Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett, over Baker Mayfield, and I'm like, I'll take the product that I know what I'm going to get. I know Baker Mayfield, when healthy, can lead his team to a playoffs. I don't know if he can win the Super Bowl. I know he's got a big mouth and he doesn't know how to stay off social media, but I like Baker Mayfield more than I do Kenny Pickett, at least right now. Listen, prove me wrong, Kenny Pickett. Now, Malik Willis is that Jordan saying 4 is the ceiling, ceiling's the floor. His skill level is unbelievable. But we've seen him play subpar against subpar competition. He threw 3 interceptions against Middle Tennessee State. He's thrown 3 picks against teams that are – listen, he's not playing against the SEC. He's not playing against the ACC. He's not playing against the Pac-12, Big 10, Big 12. He wasn't playing that competition week in, and so he didn't have astronomical numbers. Now, could he be a product of the people surrounding him? He wasn't playing. He needs work. He's raw. He's got the skill, though. Here's the thing. Can Malik Willis be Josh Allen in 3 years? He's got the skills to be. He's fast. He's got an arm. He's strong. He's big. Not as big, but and that's the biggest. And we talked about, and that's the biggest thing. Is he able to process information at the NFL level and then perform that skill that he learned in the classroom onto the field? And if he can,
well, Ted, we always know it has to be
like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. We've seen these guys progress. First year, oh my God, Lamar looks like a bust. He's awful. Second year, third year, MVP. Josh Allen, holy cow, he might be the best. He might be the best quarterback in all of football. So you're looking at guys get better. All right, can they?
But also, they have to have for a guy, specifically a guy like Willis, because of his excellent traits, I would say, and traits that you don't get to have. You don't get to look. They always say, can't teach speed. Like, you just can't teach speed. That's why a team like the Miami Dolphins next year, the product that they're going to put on the field, yeah, you can have the best talent secondary in the game. You can't teach speed. But my thing about the quarterbacks, especially Willis, you can't teach speed. And he's a smart kid. He's got great character. And I believe that's a huge trait that quarterbacks should get judged on more. What's his character like? What's his personality like? He comes off as a great human being. Just seems like he's that type of guy. A guy you want to – he's like a Saquon, a good guy you just can't dislike because he's a guy you want in your building, and he's a guy you want to build your franchise around. But you can be all that. You can be the greatest person in the world. That's fine. You can be the nicest human being in the world. But you also have to have the right system put in place for a quarterback like him. Whoever drafts him, whether it's Carolina, whether it's Atlanta, Seattle, Pittsburgh, one of the teams that have been – I don't see any other team – let's just say I don't see any other teams drafting a Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett with the team other than the teams that I just named. Maybe Houston, I don't see that. But those teams, if you're going to draft a guy like Malik Willis, you have to put in the right system for him, and you got to make him – just let him learn because he has all the product to be a successful quarterback. He has the traits to be great. Give him the right system, like Baltimore did with Lamar. It's worked. Base everything off of his strengths. Don't expect him to come in and be like, you got to learn this. Well, every quarterback's different, and he's one of those guys that we'll be talking about because he has the traits that could make a team very happy, and a defense losing sleep over.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a very interesting draft because this is one of the few draft classes I could think. I'm trying to just think in the last.
You can't sit here and say who's going to be like.
Well, no, not even that. Not even number one, but in the quarterback draft class. Maybe you can go back to the Daniel Jones draft class where it's like, all right, definitely Kyler Murray. Then there was Dwayne Haskins, and then there was Daniel Jones. So, I would love to know what those three guys comparison to these. Because I like
makes this draft so interesting. Ted, listen, feel me out. Quarterbacks, you don't know who's going to go one. The edge rushers, you don't know who's going to go one. The offensive linemen, you don't know who's going to be the first guy off. Receivers, you don't know who's going to go off. Running backs, we all think maybe Breece Hall, but we don't know who's going to be the tight end. My point is that in this first round that we've been talking about,
this is a meat and potatoes.
Oh yeah, we get what the team's needs are. We just don't know who to play, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's every year." I get that, but this is a year where you can't sit here and be like, Hutchinson's going to be the first defensive end off the board. That's not so because look at the latest reports now. Trayvon Walker, offensive lineman. Is it going to be Neal? Is it going to be Ike Okunwa? Or is it going to be Charles Cross? Maybe it's going to be Charles Cross. That's what and that's what I'm saying. The cornerbacks. We all thought it was going to be Derek Stingley all of a sudden. Now, Sauce Gardner, hello. You're the number one guy. Safeties. I mean, Kyle Hamilton probably is the main guy.
Well, here's the thing, Kyle. I know, but Kyle Hamilton. It's funny. You think about Thibodeau, Kyle Hamilton, and Derek Stingley, right? You would have thought beginning of the year, those would have been the top three guys in the draft class, and all three of those guys have fallen. Now, that's what the reports are saying. Who knows if it's fire or water? But we've heard Thibodeau falling anywhere from 1 to 5. I'd say 1 to 12. I think he's done by 12. I don't think he goes outside the top 10. I think if the Jets and he's not the Jets take someone like Gardner,
even the receivers, you're sitting here and you're like, oh, maybe Jameson Williams, if he's 100, if he's getting on track to be healthy, Jameson Williams might be the guy. Garrett Wilson. I mean, you don't know any of these guys who's going to be the first.
But there's a lot of talent.
This is a great draft because of the fact that there's just so much unknown and uncertainty. I call this the uncertainty draft because you don't know what's going to happen especially in this first round, all the way from picks 1 all the way to 251, Mr. Irrelevant.
This is a meat and potato. There's no stars in this draft class. Okay, on April 19th, there's no stars yet. We'll talk in a year or two who stands out, but there's no one. There's not a Clowney. There's not a Reggie Bush. There's not a.
There could be.
There's not a Trevor Lawrence. There's not a Trevor Lawrence. There's not a Peyton Manning. There's no one that really stands out. When you talk about the defense ends, Trayvon Walker, Thibodeau, and Hutchinson, they're 1A, 1B, and 1C. So, and each one of them brings a different level of skill. Hutchinson's the motor's going. Trayvon Walker seems the biggest upside. And then Thibodeau, he was the guy with all the.
I think he's the ultimate wild card, bro. I really do.
Yeah, so with that being said, and usually we know how quarterbacks usually go 1, 2. So, because there's no stud quarterback in this draft class, that makes it even more interesting. Like you said, you got 3 really good offensive tackles with Cross, Neal.
But that's what you just said about the quarterbacks, Ted, where if Willis or Pickett go, that just becomes more of the unknown because which team is going to desperately trade up or is a team going to stay put and just hope that this guy falls to him. Like, that's the thing you have to take into consideration because of the fact that this is not a great quarterback class as of right now.
I mean, based on our mock draft, and I know it's got us blocking our faces, but, if we're doing our draft class like we were, let's start with 18. We had the, 18? So we had the Eagles taking Treylon Burks, all right, because we had him taking a defensive player before. So they get another receiver to team up with Devontae Smith because the Jalen Reagor experience has not worked out, right? Then we went with Jordan Davis. So I'm like, the Saints could beef up that defensive line, and Jordan Davis, there's no bigger blocking wall of a defensive man than him. And then one of the questions was the Steelers, right? Where do we go? We had Malik Willis falling to 20. We didn't see anywhere before that where we thought he would go. So that works out really well for Pittsburgh in our mock draft. We'll have another one beforehand, and then we had Patriots, we know that they want linebackers, guys that have versatility. If Devin Lloyd falls, he could be there. There's been a lot of reports to Kobe Dean that he listen, great blitzer, probably one of the best linebacker blitzers, can go sideline to sideline. We saw how good he was. We saw in the national championship game. Now, listen, we had 22. What's the 22? The Packers, right? We had Packers taking Dotson. Dotson here. And we didn't have any trades, but listen, they get another good tier receiver. And then, you go and Cardinals, okay, let's shore up that offensive line. Let's protect our young, small quarterback and Tyler Linderbaum. Who knows if he'd go there? Probably won't. Probably maybe Dallas or later in the rounds. But that's what we had. We said George Karlaftis from Purdue. They need another edge rusher. They lost one. Tyler Linderbaum would be another good option for them. So, and then Andrew Booth, right? Let's shore up the secondary. The Bills, their number 2 corner last year or number 1 corner. He ends up tearing his ACL. So how do we shore up our defense? There's a lot of good options out there. There's a lot of good value here. And I would love when we do our final mock draft, compare and contrast. We've done this before, a plus and minus of let's see how our guys do compared to where they fall. Because I know a couple of years ago we did one and we really compared it. And we hit on a lot of the guys going to the right teams.
Well,
we might not hit on the right spots, but we hit on the right teams.
Oh, remember, we're going to do it next week. We're going to have our final mock draft next week because we are 9 days away from the 2022 NFL draft. We will finish up this part previewing the first round of the NFL draft with picks 26 to 32. And the Packers and Chiefs are back on the board. Well, the Chiefs are back on the board with 2 picks, and the Packers are back on it with their other pick. So we'll see what happens. This is where maybe a lot of those teams, the Lions, who have an early second-round pick, maybe want to try to come back into the first round if they don't take the quarterback at number 2. So there could be a lot of trades at the end. I know our mock draft we just showed we didn't have any trades. We don't usually do trades, so we stay put. We stay pretty consistent.
Listen, I'm not into the trade business. It's too hard to figure out what a team because here's the thing. You and me, the team, what's good value that we see, right? If you're going to move up how many spots, so you got to do it by the point system that they have provided.
Well, that's why we stay consistent and we go with just a normal first round. We keep it simple and we keep it regular. Well, you also saw in our mock draft, we had the 2 quarterbacks going to the 2 spots that we would assume would be going maybe quarterback. The Panthers would pick it, and the Steelers staying put at 20 and getting Malik Willis, so their future quarterback. It's just, it's almost here. All the circulations, the rumors, the reports. It's going to come to an end next week. We're finally going to have.
Next week, this time next week, there'll be even more stuff, some more smoke.
I can't wait. I'm just waiting, especially because we're Giant fans and we get multiple draft picks. To think we have 2 top 8 picks is fascinating.
Well, here's the other thing.
Because of the draft. Also because of the draft that where this draft is probably its high points at the offensive line and defensive line, the Giants desperately need that. So as a Giant fan,
this draft is in Vegas where it got postponed. Imagine if this draft was in New York City, the Radio City Music Hall, with the Giants and Jets having multiple first-round picks.
The Giants and Jets back-to-back picks.
And then Giants and then Jets.
I'm not gonna lie. I do miss Music City Hall at the NFL draft.
It belongs in New York City.
Probably
not anymore because there's too much chaos, but
it needs to be in New York.
I'll tell you, there's going to be a lot. And here's another thing, we haven't talked about. Probably won't happen. Very unlikely. But if there's no deal done by next Thursday, what happens with Kyler Murray? Does a team make a big offer and trade for him? Does Carolina say, here you go, Arizona. We're going to give you the next 3 first-round picks. We're going to give you number 6 now. We're going to give you next year's first round, the next year's first round. And we're going to give you Christian McCaffrey, and you're going to give us Kyler Murray.
We haven't even talked about that part of the whole.
That's something they're like. I think that's a realistic trade.
That's a whole nother conversation down the road within the next week that we will certainly be touching base with because, there's going to be some prospects that a new era is coming, but also with all the stars that have been moving in this offseason, let's just say, I don't think it's done with, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep an eye on the Kyler Murray situation, and we have to certainly keep an eye on those 4 receivers right now. Because as of now, 3 of them are not reporting to not mandatory camp, but are not going to be but are not showing up to off-season activities. So something to definitely keep an eye out. But yes, we will be back at the end of the week to talk New York Yankee baseball. What is going on once again? Another struggle out of the gates. It's the same old with the New York Yankees. We'll talk about it with Joe Aguirre. Plus, me and Ted will be talking more NBA playoffs and how this first round, man, NBA fans, don't worry. They're in good hands. We got a lot of great talent going on in the NBA. But we'll talk all about that at the end of the week. We are Keys to the City. We're streaming all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, or share, or follow at Keys to the City, or check out Clovercrest Media for many more podcasts, or if you want to get involved with this type of business. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Keys to the City. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.